So, Jamila, Mack, thank you guys so much for joining me in this conversation about the film Union Street. I am really excited to talk with you guys about this, and I actually kind of want to start with the premiere because it had its world premiere. Tell me about how that went.
Yeah, it was packed in a way I don't think we were expecting. Like we were I think we knew the community was going to come out and we would have I knew we had really great ticket sales, but there was a lineup down the block which was amazing. And yeah, the just in general, I think the Black community feel very happy to finally have our story on the screen and be able to kind of turn the page to a new chapter for our community.
Very cool. Mac, what was your read on the evening?
I mean, very similar to Jamila. It was very cool for me too. Like I've made quite a few films that have been in festivals now, more shorts, and
Mhm.
usually it's like, it's your friends
Mhm.
and maybe a couple other people from the festival that have shown up. And yeah, I have never sold out a or had a packed house of a screening. So it was very cool. And it was very cool to see the people that I haven't talked to in a long time but I didn't even know I was involved in the film and that were there. And then we're like, wow, this is amazing that you were part of this. I saw your name in the credits and then I came and found you. And so, yeah, it was.
That's awesome. Jamila, for those who are just discovering the film and are curious, can you give a synopsis on what Union Street is about?
Yeah, so Union Street spans three generations and it tells the story of both the historic Black community in Strathcona and then the destruction of that neighborhood by way of the Georgia viaducts. And the focus, while history is used as a springboard, the focus is really on this incredible ensemble of Black Vancouverites who are working to rebuild the city. And yeah, and we picked people who have no historical connection to this incident, just to kind of prove a point that a lot of these systemic issues are ongoing and something can happen 3 generations ago and still be affecting people to this day.
And that's so important to know, for stories like these, and to see, the struggle that there has been, but also the resilience, which I think is a,
Absolutely.
a really big part of this film. Um, I really want to know, Jamila, what inspired you to make this film? What was the seed that was planted to make this? And then, of course, Mac, I want to know how you got involved.
Yeah, so I think I grew up in the suburbs of Vancouver, and we were the only Black family. Not like I'm biracial, so not only were we a Black family, we were a mixed family. There was just there was a lot of we dealt with, unfortunately, a lot of racism, a lot of just unkind behavior, and I think being isolated in a community like that, I kind of thought that my experience was just my own experience. But when I moved to Vancouver as a teen, I realized that, the Black community here was dealing with their own extension of those feelings, and learned a lot more about the history. And yeah, I learned about the history as a teen and kind of, it always stuck in my mind. Mac and I met, and he wanted to help uplift the Black community through film. He also knew about all of the the historical things that happen in the city, and it really felt like a chance to unite and tell the story together. Yeah, it was a long journey. When Mac and I first met, I had been in a writer's room, but I had never really worked on set at that time as a filmmaker. So I think it's been a long time coming.
I'll ask you more about that in a moment. Mac, how did you
Yeah.
uh, how did you get involved?
Yeah, I mean, as Jamila said, I wanted to tell, well, I wanted to be part of telling this story. And I heard the story of Hogan's Alley and kind of got a little obsessed and was looking into it and reading. And then it was just after Black Lives Matter. And I felt like there wasn't really much I could do in that situation, and then just thinking about what I do, and it's empowering people to tell their own stories. And so I met with Jamila, and right away she was, I am so interested in it, and I could tell that she was a fantastic storyteller, and I was like, okay, let's make a film together. So we, yeah, and spent a long time trying to find money. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
once we did find the money, they were like, you have 6 months to make it. So then we just, made it.
Woo, intense.
Absolutely. And I think we like decided we were making this movie the first, like we went for coffee, and by the end of the coffee hang, we were like, okay, yeah, we're making a movie.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. One thing that like I never really saw, like say that first coffee meeting, for me, it kind of always just gonna be a historical documentary about what happened at Hogan's Alley and what happened with the viaducts. And what Jamila did, and I think it was brilliant, was make it a more about today and more about Black joy and a celebration instead of just like a historical archive. Which I think makes the film much stronger. It might not be what a lot of people are expecting coming into the film, but I think it's um, yeah, much more true representation and different than anything that people have seen before.
Hmm. I think one of the things that makes it so engaging is how many subjects you guys have in this movie. Tell me about how you found these people and had these conversations with them.
Yeah, I think I knew right off the bat I wanted to have, like, yeah, I think both Mac and I were like, how do we fit as many experiences as possible? Because I think, people have an idea of what Black culture is, and it's a very a homogenized version of Black culture, but there's so many different experiences within the Black community. So I think the big part was, let's try and get people from all, people who are from all different backgrounds, people who are first generation, second generation, third generation, people who are, Chinese and Jamaican, people, like, just like everybody. But the one good thing about having a small Black community is that we all kind of know each other. So it was a easy, it wasn't difficult to find people who were interested in telling this story. It was more so, how do we have a cast that kind of balances all these different perspectives.
Very cool. I think that there is a lot to take in with these stories. And I guess I want to know more about like how your perspective was shaped in the process of making these. Was it strengthened? Were things altered? And this is a question for both of you. I think that it'd be really cool to get both your perspectives on like where your perspective on Vancouver was before the film and where is that now.
Yeah, I think in the Black community, there is definitely a lot more pain than I really realized. I know, just being a person who lives the life on a daily basis, your own pain, your family's pain, your friends' pain. And I think from the outside, you see what the community is going through. But yeah, really having these deep conversations with people in the community and diving through archives was, I think, a much more emotional experience than I initially thought. I also realized that there are a lot of kind of different groups within the community that were sectioned off and doing their thing in their own community. And I think everybody was hoping for community organization. Everyone was like, oh, when is someone going to do that? When are we all going to get together? So I think having those conversations and letting other people in different parts of the Black community know, hey, you should talk to this person. You should, do events with this person, or go to this business. I think that it's going to just help. Hopefully the film helps cultivate more community organizing and being together instead of having the separation within the community.
Mm-hmm. Mac, how about you? How's your perspective either been bolstered or altered by this film?
Yeah, I think Vancouver on the surface is seen as a very inclusive and multicultural place. It's part of the reason why, but maybe it's not as inclusive. And if it is multicultural, but not of all cultures, it's like a handful of cultures. And yeah, there's still parts of the film that make me uncomfortable, which I think is good. And even last night I could feel it of, when we start talking about the fact that there was a KKK presence in Vancouver for a long time. I could feel all the white people in the audience go, oh God, and I think it's actually good to sit in that uncomfortability for a while.
Absolutely. Just a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up. This film focuses on Vancouver, right? And that's great. I think the scope is very important, and there's a lot of stories to be had there. But I do wonder what you think the impact of this film might be on communities outside of Vancouver.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, we've seen this already kind of happening within just suburbs outside of Vancouver. We've had a lot of interest from, we had some, interest from like the city of Burnaby and a couple of other different cities, just kind of realizing, oh, hey, this happened in my city too. So I think, as the film is released across Canada and elsewhere, people are going to start looking at how their own city planning has maybe shaped or impacted their Black communities. And I think, we're talking about Vancouver. The film is about Vancouver, but our cultural consultant and historian, Joshua Tecumseh Robinson, he mentions that this is something that was, very cookie cutter and happens, across Canada, across America, where redevelopment was used as a sort of, industrial or city planning racism to extract the Black community or destroy the Black community in a legal way. So I think, it's going to create lots of conversation. I think, every single city and country is going to have their own take on it, but I do think it's something that applies across the board for sure.
Yeah. Mac, anything to add to that?
No.
Last question, and I want to kind of get into call to action here, because Asha, one of your subjects, Asha Wielden, made a statement that really resonated with me. She was talking about the Black Lives Matter movement and how there was a lot of awareness and how great that was, that this that all this awareness ended up happening during COVID, and she was happy about that. But then she also says that she's concerned about that just being a trend, and that interest waning based off of media exposure. So yeah, as far as call to action goes, what would you like for this film to accomplish, and how do we avoid Black awareness just being a trend?
Yeah, it's something that I have dealt with personally. The year of Black Lives Matter was my busiest work year to date, and I have not experienced anything close to that since then. So, and I think this is something that we see with everybody unfortunately within the Black community. But yeah, I think the key is really just, investing in communities long term, and just realizing that we need the flexibility and the financial stability to be able to continue to create these stories and continue to have flourishing businesses and communities. It has to be more long term than just, okay, we did this one really great thing this one time. So I feel like in terms of an actual call to action, it's just, care about the Black community and our stories and our businesses long term. I think it's just as easy as that, and actually being in community with people will definitely change your perspective. And I think it humanizes the situation too. I think everyone has compassion within them. I like to believe that everybody has love within them, and that if they're in community with us, good things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mac, any thoughts on that from your end?
I mean, I think Jamila covered it. I was just actually kind of thinking through, I probably shouldn't be thinking through things in an interview and ask, but just thinking too of, even for myself, of like, it's important to keep supporting Black stories and Black storytelling, and that this film isn't just a trend of like, okay, well, what's the next story, whether it's with Jamila that we make another one, or supporting that, supporting empowering other Black storytellers in Vancouver to tell their story.
You know what? So I have one more question for you, Jamila. Obviously, you collected a lot of great stories for this film, but there was a point where I wondered, if you were a subject in this film, what would your perspective on this issue be? Like, what components of your lived experience would be a part of your story if you were a subject?
Oh, I love that question so much. That's actually something I have not thought about at all, but I think my experience, my experience growing up in the suburbs was very much so, I need to hide every part of me that is Kenyan Canadian. I need to hide all of that, because that is going to put me in danger, or be some sort of, I'd be at some sort of social disadvantage, at least if I'm showing my Kenyanness in any way. And then coming to Vancouver, it was very much so like, okay, my Blackness is actually celebrated a little bit more in this city than it is in the suburbs. But I don't know. I really, it's a tough thing. I think, I would tell the fact that I still don't really feel a strong community. And I think I created this film because I wanted to see the community come together and to feel a part of the community. But I also know so many other Black folks and African Canadian folks who don't feel a part of a community in general. We talk about going to Toronto and having people accept us with open arms. So I think there's just a lot of trauma specifically in Vancouver that is preventing us all from experiencing joy and celebrating our culture together. So my journey, if I were in the film, would probably be something of, learning to co-create in a Black community that has so many different opinions and experiences and viewpoints.
Well, perhaps that'll be your guys' next documentary.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for this. This was a real pleasure to be able to talk with you guys, and I'm wishing your careers and the film success going forward. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Did you know, just to piggyback on that question, did you know that Jamila's dad is in the film?
I did not know that. Wait.
Oh, thank you for mentioning that. My dad is Abdul in the film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he does the opening.
Yes.
He does the opening
monologue,
narration. So that little baby that he's holding up is me.
You are in the film.
I am in the film. Yeah.
Well, he has a great narrator voice. Very cinematic.
Yeah, that was my bedtime stories growing up were pretty crazy. I think that's the reason why I'm a storyteller, to be honest.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks for adding that, Mac. All right, guys, I appreciate this so much, and I'll be in touch with you guys, okay?
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.